Hello and welcome to the Convo presented by Leadership Indianapolis. I am Ebony Chappelle, Manager of Programs and Communications, and today I am super excited to be talking with Ms. Shannon Williams of the Mind Trust. Hi Shannon, how are you?
Ebony, I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's good to see you and be talking with you. This is just like a full circle moment for us.
No, I miss it. I miss like interacting with you on a daily basis and working with you. So this is kind of like we're working together again.
Yeah, and I'm excited about it because you have some really amazing things going on over at the Mind Trust. But before we jump into that, give us a brief overview of your role and what it is you do there.
Okay. So I am Senior Vice President of Community Engagement at the Mind Trust, and I also lead our communications team. It just seemed natural for those two teams to kind of integrate, especially once I came on board. And so my team, we work really intentionally to engage and provide opportunities for students and parents, just the community at large, to not only learn about education, but also to be empowered and to use their voice to, advocate for the changes that they believe are necessary in education. And we are very intentional about engaging marginalized communities. So for us, that's Black individuals and Latino individuals, because those are the two in this local community who have been most marginalized, and really throughout the country and the history of our country anyway. So yeah, we do a lot of engagement. We work with community partners on the grassroots level and also at the grass tops level. We hold multiple conversations. We have great partnerships with other entities like UNCF and 100 Black Men and so many others. But really it's just to engage and in the community and form, strategic partnerships, not only with the Mind Trust, but also some of the schools that we support.
You were at the Recorder for a long time, at the helm over there. What was it like for you to move from there to the Mind Trust and the community? You just had, a lot of thoughts because they're like, oh, you're at the Recorder and we're going to miss you and all of that. So how did you handle that transition?
Well, let me say first that I love the Recorder, and you know more than anybody how much I love the Recorder. It was my baby before I had a child. But I think it's important to know when it's time to go and when it's time to pass the baton. I've been with the company for 18 years, 8 of those years I served as president. So I've reached my capacity. I'm a very ambitious person, and I never want to get complacent. So I really felt it was time to challenge myself in a new way. And so when the opportunity presented itself at the Mind Trust, I was like, wow, this is really cool. Because I knew if I left the Recorder, it would have to be for an organization that was mission driven and aligned with my, not only my professional background and experience, but also my personal beliefs and integrity. And the Mind Trust does all of that. So it was difficult to leave the paper just because of the history and my love for it. I continue to support the paper. The new administration over there is doing a phenomenal job. But because the Mind Trust was so aligned with advocacy and wanting to engage with the community and just my personal beliefs, it just seemed like a natural transition. And to be honest, it was also exciting for me to be able to be part of systemic change, really disrupting systemic racism and creating new systems of equity. And that's a big thing about the Mind Trust. That's something we're really focused on. So it was tough, but I love it. It's been 2 years now, and I'm enjoying my time there. We've got a great team.
Wonderful. And about, that point on equity, we're in a really interesting time in our country. We have the new pandemic of COVID and what we all know to be an ongoing pandemic of systemic racism, which keeps a lot of our vulnerable communities, like you just mentioned earlier, without access to the things that they need to not only survive, but to keep up with the pace. And recently, the Mind Trust developed these community learning sites. I'm excited to hear more about this. So just tell us what it is and what it's going to be providing for the community.
Yeah. So, when it was announced that the schools would be virtual, we realized, very early on that this was going to present a problem for parents, especially working parents within the IPS boundaries. And so the Mind Trust is all about solving problems and helping to empower the community in different ways. And so we really thought, hey, let's do something to try to alleviate the burden that some of these parents are going to experience. So, parents were having to choose and still have to choose between, working and to provide the basic essentials for their families or assisting their children with e-learning. And the reality is most of those parents have to work to provide, a roof over their kids' head. And so we said, let's do something. And we had like $200,000 to invest in the community. We immediately said, if we are able to create locations or sites throughout the community, throughout different parts of central Indianapolis, that would be a great relief for parents. And so we got on the phone and we called some of our community partners, churches, nonprofits, community centers. And, we said, hey, if we are able to fund this, would you be able to join us in kind of tackling this problem? And the partners were like super excited because they had been hearing the same need from, folks in their respective communities. And so we created the community learning sites. And these sites provide not only e-learning assistance, but also other enrichment activities for students in grades K through 12. And it's been wonderful. I was just on a call with one of the sites this morning, and they have a waiting list of about 60 people. The demand is still there, and many of these sites have been going on for a couple of weeks now. And that's pretty evident in our other sites as well. So yeah, we thought of the idea really to fulfill a need and to fill a void, and really proud with how things have kicked off so far.
That is wonderful. That's wonderful. And listening to you talk, I'm just thinking about, from a leadership perspective, the level of vision that's required to do something like that, the level of teamwork that's required to do something like that, to get everybody on the same page. Yeah. What did you glean from that, and what advice would you give to other community leaders when it comes to navigating all of that? You see this big problem, and how do you navigate that?
Okay, that's those are really great questions. As far as like the team leaning in, you're absolutely right. This initially started as, something that my team was kind of leading on, but we quickly learned that we had to incorporate all aspects of the Mind Trust. We had to, talk with our school supports team to help provide facilitators to our community learning sites because they were going to be serving additional children. We had to work with entities to, help get, Spanish translators to fulfill the needs of the Latino community. So we definitely had to lean in on all aspects of our team. But I think, during times such as these, COVID, the pandemic, the racial and social unrest that's going on in the country, I think it's just really important to try to lead not only with integrity, but with courage. Because if you're trying to do something different, or if you're trying to provide opportunities to people who typically don't get opportunities or don't typically have a voice, that requires courage, but it also requires strategy. So I think the advice I would have is to just lean in as much as you can to help others during these challenging times. And not only during challenging times, but especially during challenging times. It's been tough, but I think I'm very proud of, how the Mind Trust has been able to navigate a lot of these things. And to be honest, since March, when the pandemic hit, the onset of the pandemic, we've been like actively engaged with the community. We've made, investments at multiple levels. We've, invested $100,000 in cleaners. We've invested, over $225,000 like directly into the community during this time. We've partnered with entities. We've invested. We were like a founding partner with the e-learning lab, and so we've just tried to diversify our efforts to have the most impact on the community in general. And so I would just say, just lead boldly, and sometimes you're gonna, experience like uncertain challenges, and you just have to kind of navigate through those the best way you can, but you have to keep going, even when it's tough. And these community learning sites have been a true labor of love for our team, because I mean, you know, we were literally working around the clock. But you know, when you think about the impact that they're making in the community, it makes it all worth it.
Yeah, that is fantastic, and some really great advice. Particularly the point about leading boldly. I appreciated that one a lot. Other leadership lessons. I love asking this question to everybody that comes on the Convo, but is there another leadership lesson that has helped you survive and thrive during this time that we're living in?
Yeah, you know, I've been blessed to have a lot of mentors who, you know, given me advice and guidance over the years, and, you know, who I really respect. And, you know, one person in particular told me, at whatever level you're leading, whatever you're doing, always represent, you know, the marginalized, always be, you know, help and be a voice for others. And so I think, you know, relative to leadership, I try to do that. I think, you know, sometimes it can be challenging, like if I'm the only person of color or the only female, you know, in a boardroom or on a specific team, that can be challenging, especially if I'm supposed to represent my people, because so often they're not represented, and that's really important to me. So I just try to lead with integrity and authenticity, but I am also very intentional about representing, you know, Black and brown families, because I know that those are the ones who experience inequities the most. And that takes courage too. And sometimes it's tough because, you know, you take bullets, you facilitate or, you know, initiate difficult conversations that make people uncomfortable, but it's important in order to like move the work and progress and make progress, you know, for the community in general. I just think that's important. And so I just never take my platform, whatever platform that is, for granted. And it's not about me, you know, I'm ambitious, I want to do well professionally, but ultimately I'm driven by how impactful I can be to other people. I want to do what I can to help other people, especially those who just haven't had a chance before. And, you know, I've got a 3-year-old son, and I want to do what I can in this world to make it better for him when he becomes an adult and, you know, my age. And, you know, I feel like we've got to just keep kind of navigating and pushing, even during times when like it's easy to get overwhelmed and fatigued and tired, especially now, like with the pandemic and all this, you know, racial tension and strife.
Yeah. Oh, well, it was good talking with you. As always, I miss our chats, and this was definitely one for the book. So I appreciate your time and your wisdom and everything that you're doing in the community.
Thank you. I appreciate you. I just want to give a shout out to you because I love these conversations. Like, I'm a fan of them. I watch them all the time. And I just love what you're doing in the community on so many different levels. Like, you're using your platform too, and you're using it in a bold and courageous way. And you've got multiple platforms. So I just appreciate how determined you are and how you're using your voice to be a positive change for all people, but especially Black people. So thank you for that.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Yes. I appreciate it more than you know. And thank each and every one of you for tuning in to the Convo, and have a great day and a positive week.